and welcome to Jay's Reviews. Today we're covering Motora. This game is done by Twisted Bit Games, and we were lucky enough to get this copy at Gen Con, and it's coming to Kickstarter very soon. For more information, make sure to check out the links below, and we'll keep you up to date with what we find. Now let's hit the table. Motora by Twisted Bit Games. Plays 2 to 6 players. Playtime is about 30 to an hour and a half, depending on players. Setup. Take out the 4 board sections and place them on the table together, making the island. Once you've done this, separate the tiles between villages and non-villages. Shuffle the 2 piles separately and place the village tiles in the designated spots. Fill in the rest of the board randomly with non-village tiles. Shuffle the temple, craftsman, and event decks and place them on the side of the board. Each player picks a color tribe to use for the game. Turn order is determined depending on who is the hungriest. Or you can roll a d6. Once this is determined, next, the first player will pick where their village will be. And continuing clockwise, each player afterwards will do that as well. Take 6 meeples of your color and place it in the active worker space on your board. Flip over the village tiles that weren't used and place the idols on these spaces. You are now ready to play. Turn order. The game is split up into 4 sections: placement, combat, actions, and resources. Placement. Starting with the first player, each player places 1 tribe member on the island within 5 spaces of their village. If they want to go past that point, they have to be able to use a resource called shelter. If 2 different colored tribes are on the same tile, combat will happen. Depending on how many tribes you have on a combat square, will determine certain effects that can happen during your combat phase. After everyone has placed 2 tribesmen on the board, an event card is drawn. This could be good, this could be bad. Usually it's bad. After the event takes place, everybody continues placing their tribesmen on the board, and we move on to combat. Combat. Combat occurs when any 2 players are occupying the same tile. The first person will take all of his combat phase, and then it will move on to the next player. The players involved in the combat roll 2d6. There can be more than 2 players involved in a combat. The person with the highest roll wins. Calculate the difference will determine what kind of damage or effect will happen to the person who lost. 1 to 2, tribesman is placed in the action section of the player board. 3 to 4, tribesman is placed in the injured section of the player board. 5 to 6, tribesman is placed in the serious injured section of the board. 7 to 8, tribesman is killed and removed from the game. 9 to 10, the tribesman is captured and placed on the winner's board. If there is multiple tribesmen in the same combat, only 1 worker is killed or injured. The rest are placed beside the player board when the combat is resolved. Tribesmen may also raid the opponent's village. If the player has a defending tribesman there, a combat happens. If not, pillaging occurs. The attacker may roll 1d6 and steal a number of food, water, or destroy shelter. They may alternatively choose to take back a captive tribesman, transport an idol, or steal a piece of unused gear. Before moving on to the action phase, all previously injured tribesmen move to the next track, or the next section on the track of the player board. Workers do not move the turn that they are injured. All tribesmen remaining on the board will carry out the action on their tile. This can be gathering, fishing, transport, or recruiting. Gathering, tribesman gathers the shown resources on the tile they are on. Mark this on your player board. Fishing. Tribesmen fish in an adjacent square. Make sure to mark this on your player board. Transport. If your tribesman is on the tile with an idol to spaces up to 2 spaces away from the original location. Recruit. If you have 2 or more tribesmen on your village, things happen. You recruit another tribesman. They do not take up resources this turn. Once tribesmen have completed all their actions, they return back to the village. Put them back on your active space on the player board. Resources. Once you have gathered all your resources and your tribesmen have returned home, it's time to make sure that they're satisfied and safe. For each tribesman you have on your player board, you must give them 1 food and 1 water and have at least 1 shelter for the entire tribe. You can, at any point, if you have captured another player's tribesman, you can kind of eat them for 6 points worth of food. If a tribesman is still out on the island, you do not have to feed them this turn. If your tribe has no shelter for a turn, you essentially lose everything because you have nowhere to store them. This is all your food, water are reduced to 0, and you will lose any equipment cards you have. If at any point you do not have enough food and or water for your tribesmen, 1 will be sacrificed. They starve. Sorry. Once everyone has been satisfied for hunger and shelter, you continue the game, starting again with placement. How to win. There are 2 ways to win this game. You can either be the last one standing after destroying all the rest of the tribes on the island, or be able to satisfy the gods and have all the idols you need. I really wasn't sure what I was walking into with this game. The theme was what drew me in at a glance when we saw it at Gen Con. When I got talking to the creator, it really seemed like it was something I was going to enjoy. Now, normally I'm not a huge fan of work replacement games, but the theme of this game really drew me in. The fact that you're never playing the same board when you're designing or setting up the game is incredible. It really gives it a lot of replay value, and your strategy can change depending on things as well, where the location of your greatest resources are, and etc. There are so many different ways to play this game that it's interesting and also really intense sometimes. Because you have the option of either trying to get the idols back to your village or just all-out combat and trying to survive the elements of the island, you really have 2 distinct ways to play this. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I love the artwork. I love the mechanics. Combat is something in this game that I wasn't expecting to be excited about because it seems just like rolling 2d6. There wasn't a lot of oomph to it when I first started. But once you get into the game and you actually see how the combat can affect your resources, your management of the island, the management of idols, it's crazy. All that to say that I really enjoyed this game and I give this J seal of approval. If you get a chance, make sure to check out the Kickstarter for this, which should be up shortly. Make sure to check the links below for more information. Make sure to follow them, and I hope to see you at the table next week. Have a great day.